As you all recall, we are meeting electronically due to the pandemic and the determination that it is not prudent or wise to meet in our regular location or to invite in members of the public. So we will be meeting under the provisions of Minnesota Statutes 13D.021 for open meeting provision during a pandemic. All other terms of the open meeting law are being followed as well. All votes will be conducted by roll call. Let's first begin with taking attendance. Manager Hejmati.
Aye, present.
Manager Loftus.
Here.
Manager Maxwell.
Here.
Manager Miller.
Here.
Manager Olson.
Present.
Manager Rognus.
Here.
And Manager White is here. Thank you very much. Is there any member of the public here who wishes to speak to the board? Seeing none, we'll move to the next item, which is approval of the agenda. Before I ask for a motion, I want to add an item at 11.2. Resolution 21014, which is recognition of Kurt Rognus' service on the MCWD board. With that addition, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Maxwell.
Maxwell moves. Is there a second?
Miller second.
Miller seconds. I'll take Miller's second. Thank you. Voting on approval of the agenda. Manager White votes aye. Manager Rognus.
Aye.
Manager Olson.
Aye.
Manager Miller.
Aye.
Manager Maxwell.
Aye.
Manager Loftus.
Aye.
Manager Hejmati.
Aye.
Thank you. We have two items under the information portion of our agenda for our reading: the seasonal closure of the Minnehaha Preserve Boardwalk update and the Q4 financial report. Thank you, staff, for those for that information. On the consent agenda is a single item: the approval of the January 28th board minutes. Is there a motion to approve the agenda, the consent agenda?
So moved, Olson.
Hejmati moves.
I'm not sure who I heard. I'll take Bill Olson as the moving party and Hejmati as the second.
Perfect.
For the consent agenda, Hejmati,
Aye.
Olson,
What?
Miller,
Aye.
Maxwell,
Aye.
Loftus,
Aye.
Rognus,
Aye.
and White votes aye. I do have several items for my report this evening. First off, on January 8th, 2021, the Board of Managers conducted a performance review of District Administrator James Whisker. The board rated his performance as excellent and gave him a salary increase of 5% effective January 1. The second item I'll note is that we did have a meeting with Commissioner Lundy, staff and I. It was a good meeting. As you know, he doesn't overlap with our district at all, but he certainly knows a lot about flowing water since he lives by the Mississippi River, or his community is on the river, and he understands how passionate people are about water. The focus of his office or his term is, they said, equity and jobs and housing. And we look forward to a good conversation with him going forward. Very positive. Just a note that the Hennepin County has its climate action plan draft out. I intend to take a look at that before too long. And I think we all got an email from Joel Carlson pointing out that there was a bill in the House File 884, which would make county commissioners serve as managers. So I like the idea that we've got people watching, not only our lobbyists, but mod lobbyists and others as well. Just always interesting what's happening over the state. Let's get a report from Manager Loftus on Operations and Programs Committee.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This evening we had an early start so that we could meet with our new design consultants, HDR, regarding the 325 Blake site. Had a listening session with a number of prepared questions about vision and priorities, and we spent a good amount of time where the board shared those with the consultant, and they will move forward with 3 more listening sessions and report back over the next couple months. And then we also had a staff report regarding the beginning phase 1 of a organizational assessment of our Citizens Advisory Committee. That too will be is at the beginning stages and will be discussed over the next couple of months and come back to the committee. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings and events are printed on the agenda. We have committee and board meetings on the 25th of February and the 11th of March. The February CAC meeting is on the 17th, Manager Olson's liaison, and the March meeting of CAC is on the 3rd with Manager Maxwell as the liaison. We can move now to item 11.2, Resolution 21013, which is approving the strategic discussion process for our Planning and Policy Committee and authorizing a contract with Smith Partners. Mr. Whisker.
Thank you, President White. Board of Managers, as Sherry just mentioned, Resolution 2113 tonight for your consideration would authorize a contract in an amount not to exceed $50,350 with Smith Partners. The contract would really have staff and the board working closely with Lewis Smith to analyze the watershed district's history, our history over time for lessons that we've learned that will serve us and future generations well into the future. This is something that we've discussed now 3 or 4 times in committee, so I know everybody's quite familiar. The ultimate deliverable of this work will be a synthesis of principles, or what we've talked about as immutable laws of successful watershed management that can ground our work and that we can continue building from and adapting on as we loop up in the future to new and higher levels of success. The work's quite timely as the board's looking at 2022 as a midpoint of sorts in its 10-year plan and a 5-year anniversary for a strategic plan. And as we approach that junction point next year, the board has had these discussions in committee to outline a process that would help prepare itself for strategically planning for both the near and mid and long-term horizons. And we've discussed that work having 3 phases, and this is phase 1, the past, looking back at where we've been and what we've learned. The second phase would be the present. Where are we now and what needs to be done to successfully execute in the next couple of years? And the future obviously is where are we going and how can we prepare? This work represents phase 1. Staff will be working on phase 2, our present. Where are we? What needs to be done in the next 2 years to be successful? And we anticipate that work coming forward as a staff deliverable around mid-year. And so those 2 bodies of work we think will provide a solid foundation for phase 3, which would be planning for the future. So that's sort of how this exercise will sit in context of the board's broader goals too. As phase 1 work, just a quick overview, the nuts and bolts will involve developing a timeline of critical events that have been formative in our history or instructive on the watershed strategy, philosophy, organizational structure over time. And then using that timeline to segment our history into defined periods that have strategic themes. In parallel with that, we'll be developing a working set of principles, a sort of set of hypotheses that we'll test and build from throughout the process. That's where we'll start. And that work would be presented to the board for review, maybe in February, maybe in March, before we then turn loose to conduct the research in each one of those chapters and develop individual white papers for 4 to 6 time periods. Each one of those segments of our history with the lessons that we've learned and principles would be brought forward, and we'd engage the board in a facilitated discussion. So all the way along in each one of those time periods, those white papers, we'd be looking to tease out, build, and refine on the principles for Minnehaha Creek Watershed District's model of watershed management. And then at the end, we'd look to Lewis to work with staff to stitch that all together, synthesize that work into a final deliverable that could stand the test of time and serve this board and future boards. So that is the work. And as I mentioned on the top, the resolution would authorize a contract in an amount not to exceed $50,350 with Smith Partners, and that would be staff's recommendation this evening.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
I missed who that was.
Manager Miller.
Manager Miller moved. Is there a second?
Second, Olson.
Olson, second. Discussion. Any comments? I know we've seen this in committee. If there's no discussion, then we'll proceed to voting. Manager White votes aye. Manager Rognus.
Aye.
Manager Loftus.
Aye.
Manager Maxwell.
Aye.
Manager Miller.
Aye.
Manager Olson.
Aye.
Manager Hitchmati.
Aye.
That is adopted. Mr. Whisker, are you able to share the resolution for 11.2 on your screen?
I think I can probably manage that.
Okay,
Just bear with me 1 second.
of course.
Everybody see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Kurt, you're there, right? You're with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. To create a little ceremony around this, I'm going to read the resolution and then we can open it up for comments for managers. Whereas Kurt Rognus served on the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District Board of Managers from 2015 to 2021. Whereas during his tenure, he made significant and valuable contributions to the advancement of the district's mission, its strategic focus on delivering high-impact capital projects, and to the organization's cultural emphasis on excellence and continuous improvement. Whereas he has been an ardent champion of MCWD's vision of a balanced urban ecology and the organization's principles of sound science, flexibility, and partnership. Whereas Kurt has effectively leveraged his personal and professional background to provide wise counsel on how MCWD's investments in water can create vibrant places within the watershed while maximizing value within the community, including in his service as a design liaison for the 325 Lake Road Capital Improvement Project. Whereas his leadership experience in developing high-performance teams was instrumental in refocusing MCWD's human resources, helping to establish high standards of excellence and accountability, and in supporting the unique team and the supporting environment. Whereas contribution to the organization will be dearly by board and staff. Now therefore be it resolved that the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District Board of Managers hereby formally acknowledges Kurt Rognus's contribution to the organization and expresses its deep gratitude and thanks for his service.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Definitely
Kurt,
heartfelt.
Kurt, we haven't voted on it yet.
We haven't even moved it yet. Would people like to offer any other comments at this time?
Well, I would Kurt's experience has been invaluable for us because he's got such comprehensive outlooks on community development and planning. That has been really helpful for me as a board member to listen to his advice and counsel. I'm going to miss him a lot.
Thank you.
Kurt, Gene, it's been a pleasure to work with you and hope you do well, whatever you're planning on doing. But can I ask you a personal question? Do you have a daughter by any chance?
I do.
And then I was at the store the other day and the gentleman comes up to me and says, he was your daughter's third grade teacher. He said to say hi to you.
Oh, really?
Mr. Pascal?
Oh, gee. I don't know.
I'm just saying hi to you from some of your daughter's third grade teacher. So
That's great. No kidding.
Hey, Kurt, this is Jessica. I'm also sad to see you go. I'm gonna miss your kind face and your trendy round glasses. And I just want to thank you for always being really quick to share your architectural expertise with the district, and therefore the public has benefited from that. And specifically, I recall it with 325 and you taking your personal time to sketch out some ideas and try to come up with some creative options for parking and no roads, and just you'll be missed.
Well, thank you very
Take care of yourself.
much. I hope so. I'm struggling right now with getting a COVID-19 vaccination. It really is baffling my wife, who has been working on this about, continuously for the last 2 weeks, I think.
Well, I hate to tell you this, Kurt, but Alina, which I've never been to, called me and offered me a date on the 23rd unsolicited.
That's crazy, because we've done all of our doctoring at Alina and we haven't heard a word from them.
Well, I'm older
Maybe
than you
yes.
are, so maybe that's what accounts for it.
No, you're not older than I am.
Maybe it's just alphabetical order, Miller before Rodness.
Yeah,
Maybe
that could be.
Anything else?
Kurt, my wife and I are going to miss having dinners with you and your wife from Wabasha to Bemidji. We have been all over with you.
Yeah, it's been fun. We'll miss this too.
Yeah.
I wanted to let,
Kurt, your kindness and warmth towards me when I came onto the board, I really, really appreciate helping me come on board. You reached out to me many times while coming on, and I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I'd like to thank Kurt myself too. I think that unless I'm jumping in queue ahead of another manager, I think that we heard from everybody. And personally from myself, and I think on behalf of staff too, but and Kurt and I have a scheduled debrief next week. So we'll have a longer chat and get to unpack all his words of wisdom for us and carry those forward. But I just wanted to express my deep thanks to Kurt here tonight for his service on our board. I think from the beginning, the very first onboarding meeting that I had in him in the conference room, where we were walking through all of our work in the Greenway, just brought a tremendous vision and positivity to the work, and has been a strong influence, I think, from the beginning on my leadership style. He's always brought a level of positivity and forward focus, and has been a champion for our vision of balanced urban ecology. We throw that around a lot, and I knew from the beginning, meeting Kurt and talking about our work, he actually understood deeply what it was that we were really trying to do as an organization. So I valued his ability as a deep thinker and visionary, and I think I've thoroughly enjoyed and benefited as the organization has from his service, and I'm really going to miss his contributions. So thank you, Kurt.
You guys are so good.
Kurt, others have spoken about your expertise, and so certainly you were an asset professionally. I also like the fact that you were always all in. You were just gung-ho, ready to go on all of our projects and making things work, and that's so important to have that can-do attitude. And like Bill, I will too miss having dinner with you in Beverly. Fortunately, I'm Facebook friends with Beverly, so I can stay in touch. So maybe she'll put a picture of you up once in a while, and we'll bump into each other otherwise as well. It's been a pleasure and an honor to serve with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Madam President, could I just add a word? I just want to note, Kurt, we've given an awful lot of airtime to the idea of integrating the natural and the built environment, but our long history and most of our expertise is on the natural environment and water resources. And you have brought your expertise with the built environment and a sense of aesthetic for how these two join together. And I've really been grateful for your commitment and your insight and your wisdom.
Thank you so much, neighbor.
Neighbor.
Are we ready to Mr. Miller's point, to move the agenda, to move the, move the resolution? Is
All
there a
right, so
motion?
moved. So moved.
Manager Miller moves to adopt. Is there a second?
Second, Loftus.
Thank you. Anything else before we go to the vote? Manager Miller,
Aye.
Manager Olson,
Aye.
Manager White votes aye. Manager Rognus,
Aye.
Manager Loftus,
Aye.
Manager Hitchmadi,
Aye.
Manager Maxwell.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is adopted, the resolution is adopted. James, there'll be something else, won't there?
Yes. So we'll be ordering, or have already ordered, Kurt, our customary plaque with an engraving. And in light of COVID, we're going to have that shipped to your house unless you want a masked and hand delivery from me. So, and I heard you didn't get your vaccine yet. So I think what we'll do is we'll have that in the mail, and then I'll touch base with you once you get that.
Sounds good.
And you will always be our friend and our friend in the community. It's a great thing to have had you on the board, Kurt.
Great.
We are now at the administrator's report.
Yeah, thank you, President White. Managers, I think I just have one item tonight. This came across my desk today, and so I'm not fully briefed on this. I have watched the video, but I was informed that Senator Torres Ray spoke today in the Environment and Natural Resource Finance Committee, which is chaired by Senator Ingebrigtsen. And she spoke to the issues her constituents are facing and have been facing for many years around high water and wet basements. And you'll recall back when we were meeting with Representative Wagenius and others, we'd made the rounds with Senator Torres Ray, and at some point had a hearing scheduled and a town hall that we were going to attend with Senator Torres Ray that never materialized. She was asking committee chair for a hearing, support for funding, and there's an interesting exchange. I'll forward the link out. Both Senator Ingebrigtsen and Ruud were open to working with Senator Torres Ray, but pushed back, noting that they were looking for a bill to be introduced, that they'd offered hearings in the past that were never capitalized on. But the thread of the issue from Senator Torres Ray was that there's a lot of jurisdictions to coordinate in her district. We were named, the Met Council, DNR, the Park Board of the city, the airport development. She think all play a role in water issues, and it's difficult to coordinate across those jurisdictions. And so she's looking for formation of a committee to explore and deal with the issues that I think that we're quite familiar with. And there's, I think, probably a thread there back to Hiawatha and Lake Nokomis. If you recall, when we're having these conversations a couple of years ago, there was a push for funding an area-wide study, somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million, to really evaluate how ground and surface water are working in that area relative to Hiawatha and Nokomis. And the timing of it is such that I think the Hiawatha concept master plan is up for public hearing in the next week. I don't have the exact date for that in front of me. Say that again.
17th.
The 17th, next Wednesday. And so I think that there's some timing related to that. Anyway, we've got a meeting on Monday with Joel just to check in with him. He listened into that committee meeting, as did Tiffany on staff. And I think we're going to explore whether or not we need to or want to reach out to Senator Torres Ray, because I think since our last conversations with her and Representative Wagenius, we've come a long way in our own planning. We've forged some very strong partnerships with USGS, Department of Natural Resources in Hennepin County to invest in a remote sensor network. And we're working right now this year and developing the machine learning program. And as you know, we made an ask to the LCCMR last cycle for funding to fund some of that machine learning work, additional sensor installs for groundwater sensors, and a high resolution 2-dimensional watershed model that would really allow us to quantify impacts now and into the future and really do some constructive planning with our community partners. And in talking to Brian Beck, we've also got on the docket a meeting with Joel to evaluate what reconfigured ask we might make for that modeling and sensor install to the LCCMR, the deadline for which is early April. I think there's kind of a confluence of events here. We might reach out to Senator DeForest Ray and ask for her support and remind her that we've still been working on it. We've taken her feedback, the feedback of her constituents and colleagues down at the Capitol, and put together a pretty good program supported with a coalition. And we'd appreciate her support for funding if we do indeed decide to pursue LCCMR funding again this time. It'll just be a good connection point, I think, to make. And we'll explore that more this next week and then report back if we've got any more concrete or actionable plans before we reach out and meet with her. Any questions about that? With that being my only item, I will forward out the link and, like I said, follow up if there's anything significant to report in the next week or so.
Thank you. Anything from managers? All right, then we'll look forward to your report. And the meeting is adjourned. Go
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep,
Good
thanks.
night.
Good night, everyone.